Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining our session today. Today we have, Alhamdulillah, we have Mufti Faraz Adam with us today, and he's going to do a brief introduction and presentation on Islamic finance principles. My name is Patrick 𝗢𝗂𝗄𝗎𝗇. I'm one of the financial advisors at Simply Ethical. At Simply Ethical, what we try to do very, very simply is combine, finance with principles. Okay, specifically Islamic principles, help people and guide people in terms of how to manage their money, their financial planning, their investment requirements, achieve their financial objectives, while staying true to the religion of Islam. So, in other words, keeping everything Sharia compliant. Knowledge, of course, is vital to us all. And we're very, honored and privileged to have Mufti Faraz Adam with us here today. For those of you who don't know Mufti Faraz Adam, he's an Islamic finance advisor and a Sharia scholar. I could spend a very, very long time introducing him because, mashallah, he sits on different boards. His expertise is spread over a very wide area in terms of Islamic finance, all types of financial and money matters, fintech, and so on. So he's got a huge expertise in this area. So he's going to do a brief presentation on Islamic finance principles. We're going to keep it fairly brief, approximately 30-35 minutes. And then after that, we'll have an opportunity, approximately 15 minutes for any, questions and answers. So thank you for joining us. Enjoy the next 40-45 minutes. And I will hand over to Mufti Faraz Adam. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Patrick. It's an honor and a privilege to be with you and to be with all the participants here in this. I'm just going to share my screen for everyone's benefit, so you'll be able to see, hopefully. Can you see my screen now? Or can you see my presentation? Patrick, can you see my presentation?
No, I cannot see your presentation yet, no.
Okay, I'm having issues. I don't think it's allowing me to share my screen for some reason. It's fine, not a problem. I can speak. I think it's better in that way. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I mean, so in this 20-30 minutes, I just want to really outline 5 different principles which are key to Islamic finance. And my presentation, in all honesty, were just 5 sentences, right? So nobody's missing out on much. But the objective and goal, what I want to do today is not go into the technical. I don't want to repeat what everybody knows, which is Islamic finance has these structures, Islamic finance prohibits interest, Islamic finance says no to gharar and no to gambling and these things. I think many people are aware of that. Well, I want to tackle this subject from a different angle. That is, what underpins Islamic finance? What is it about Islamic finance that makes it different? And my first point I just want to say is Islamic finance is not just about money, right? And that is potentially one of the key distinctions between conventional finance and Islamic finance. The Islamic paradigm is very clear that even when you're doing finance, even when you're doing money, it's not about money. And I guess that is a game changer, a shift in mentality, because when you look at other paradigms, other systems, when you're in finance, when you're doing money, you're working with money, you are transferring money, taking receipt of money, you are moving money around, you're part of that system and value chain. It's all about money, right? There's nothing else. It's about saving money. It's about mitigating your risks. It's about ensuring your cash flows are healthy. It's about ensuring you're mitigating your risks. It's about making sure credit risk is minimized. But Islamic finance is a complete different. That's why even to call it an alternative to the conventional, I sometimes question myself, like, is that even the right approach to Islamic finance? Are we saying that Islamic finance sits side by side to the conventional and calling it another option on the menu? I don't believe so. I think Islamic finance is completely different, that it's not even on the menu. Rather, anything else doesn't even come on the Islamic finance menu or in the Islamic menu. And that's because Islamic finance is not just about money. Rather, Islamic finance has a deeper philosophy that it is that finance is a means of recognizing Allah. Like every single practice that we have in Islam and Sharia, it cannot be anything else but a means for a person to recognize Allah and recognize God. There can be no other. I mean, if it's part of Islam, it has to connect to the being who's revealed Islam. It cannot be otherwise. Okay, so Islamic finance is really about then something to do with Allah. That we can say with certainty. But what is it then? What is it trying to achieve? Is it that Allah just wants us to do our activities in a particular manner, in a ritualistic way, without any kind of goal, vision? Of course not. It cannot make sense, because Allah is all wise, and any being which is all wise or has wisdom will only do things which are full of wisdom. And Allah, being all wise, the one with the most wisdom, who's the giver and granter of wisdom, of course his actions will be full of wisdom. And therefore, why did Allah give us a specific mode, template, model, framework, system to operate in our financial affairs? It's so that Allah is recognized through that system. Everything must lead back to Him. I mean, the whole universe, the whole world, the whole earth, the universe, the planets, the stars, the moon, the solar system, the plants, the kingdoms on the earth, animals, go into the ocean, the different creatures, the sea creatures, the coral reefs, everything that's between the heavens and the earth, they naturally guide you to Allah, right? So when you look at the stars, when you look at the sun, when you look at the moon, the way things operate, look at your own body, the way your own body functions. And if you just sit down and just take a step back and you reflect over these things, automatically, if you look deeply and you focus, you'll see the signs of Allah. So the signs of Allah are everywhere in the universe, in the cosmos. They're everywhere. They're all around us. So much so that the scholars mention that if a person was to live in isolation on an island, it is believed that such a person would naturally conclude that there's a maker behind everything that a person sees, because it's just too perfect. The system of Allah it's perfect. The creation of Allah is perfect. If that is the system of Allah, His design, His artistry, which is so perfect, then of course His guidance will just be as perfect. And of course His guidance will always be a means to recognizing Him. Just like His creation is a means of recognizing Him. So Islamic finance, therefore, is about recognizing Allah whilst you're in the markets, making money, and you want the money to work for faith, the faithful, for fairness, for justice, for honesty, for community development, and about wishing well for others. That's what Islamic finance is all about. It's about making money work to do these things. It's not about money serving your interests. Of course, it will naturally serve your interests, because that's how just Allah is. But the way Allah has designed the Islamic financial system is such that every pound will continue to be traveling in a value chain. It'll just continue to add value wherever it goes. The pound, the penny, the dollar, the dime, whatever it is, it'll continue to add value as it goes. There will never be, if it's in an Islamic financial system, there'll never come a pit stop or a moment in that chain where the money will be spent incorrectly, cause harm to the individual, to the society, to the economy, to the markets. Rather, as the pound moves and goes and is distributed, circulated within the economy, it'll continuously add value, because everything in Islam is about adding value. That's why all those things which negatively harm or harm and are negative for the society are screened out. You're not allowed to invest in so many areas. And so really, from an Islamic paradigm, if you invest, that investment really should be having multiple impact, or it should be compounding impact. Not only are you investing, benefiting yourself through profits, but your investment will naturally go towards good, will go towards ethical areas, towards things which are of benefit to mankind, and those things will produce other things which are beneficial. And that's the whole objective behind Islamic finance, that you have an economy, a financial system which makes it conducive for people to recognize Allah. And there's nothing else. Honestly, that is the end all and be all. Of course, Allah wants us to make money. There's no harm in that. Allah wants us to show appreciation to Him. Making money, there's no harm in that whatsoever, in a halal way. It's praiseworthy. Being wealthy, Allah. It comes in a hadith that the Prophet mentioned that Allah loves a servant who is pious. He keeps to himself, meaning he doesn't wander after pomp and show, and at the same time he's wealthy or he's self-sufficient. So seeking self-sufficiency, trying to be independent, trying to sustain yourself, work hard, feed your family, it's a noble task. In fact, giving sadaqah, the best form of sadaqah and charity, is feeding your family. Charity begins from home in Islam. So having that goal, earning, working hard, having earning to own a home or have a roof over your head, there's nothing wrong with that. So that's principle one, that Islamic finance is not just about money, right? There's a whole other paradigm, and money is just, you could say, part of that story and greater narrative. But there's so much more. Money is like the fuel, it's like the blood. But what the money will do, it'll be circulating. It's not the end all and be all. It's not the. That's why when scholars mention money is not a subject matter, right? In Islamic finance, when it comes about money, it's not a commodity. You can't buy and sell money for profit purposes. Of course, exchanging money is fine. Trading different currencies is fine as well. But money as its role is not a commodity such that people should hoard, people should try and sell this seeking profit or exchange it unequally. So that was principle one. Principle two then goes to money, which is money has a specific function in the society. And this ties in with really number one, if we look at from a principles perspective. And this is really important as a principle, because if somebody was to ask me, define Islamic finance in one sentence, I would say that money is not a commodity in Islamic finance. And that would literally screen out half, if not more, prohibited activities, right? Which is lending on interest and debt selling, debt trading, receivables, and discounting, and all these types of things. So in Islam, money has a specific function for the society. It's there to, money is like a current. It's like an electricity current, right? It just lights everything up in the economy. Without it, it's dark. It needs to flow. That current needs to flow. That's why it's currency, right? You have currency. A currency is something which flows, right? If people buy, sell, it keeps moving. If people know this is the normal medium of exchange. So in Islam, money is a currency. It's just there to facilitate exchange. And this is also an amazing technology. There's a book that I read called The Unauthorized Biography of Money, right? An excellent book to read. When he talks about money, it's probably one of the best books the way he describes money. But money, he describes it as a technology. And that's what it is if you go deeper, right? It's a technology. It was Allah revealed money. And Allah tells us in the Quran that Allah revealed money, qiyaman linnas. It was there to maintain the system, to maintain people. If money is maintaining people, of course it'll be maintaining the systems of people. So money plays a huge function. The price, those who know economics, everything is about the price, right? It comes down, you understand the economy, you understand the market, you understand inflation, you understand everything just because of the price. So price is central to the economy, and it's like a health check. To do like a quick health check on the economy, you look at prices. How is the different rates of inflation measured? looking at a basket of goods, simple as that, right? What's the price? How's the change been? What's the difference? So the price, which is really a sum of money, is essential. Allah has developed this technology and this creation, and it's so amazing how we are doing millions and billions of transactions daily. We've never thought about what a wonderful creation Allah has created for humans to fulfill their needs. Because if you think about barter trading, I mean, I know in the books of history and even economics, they talk about barter exchange and how barter was once the norm, and then it moved over to commodity, then it went to fiat or money and different forms of money. There's debate on this particular point, that really, was it barter exchange? Was barter ever really as a framework? Was I really ever practiced? Because if you think about it, people's needs are so different. Going to find somebody, if you have 4 bags of potato as an example, and I want 2 packs of fish as an example, where do I go? Who do I look for who wants my bags of potato? And even that 4 bags, just imagine how difficult it would be just to get your simple meal for the day. It'd be unbelievable, right? It'd be so hard. Half your day would just be going to find a buyer or a seller, and it's just not practical. So Allah has given us a system, which is money, this technology, and this technology has a specific function for the economy, for the markets, and that function is just to be a medium of exchange to help us process things quicker, so that we don't waste our time, or we don't exhaust ourselves in just trying to find something that we need from the market. So it's an amazing thing. It has a specific function. It's not a commodity, and that's why you can't buy and sell with interest. Money doesn't have a charge in it. You can't charge somebody borrowing money, right? Or somebody, as they say, renting money. There's no charge for that. You can't charge, because money has never played that function, right? Then we move on to principle 3. Principle 3 is that counterparties in a transaction are equal, right? Counterparties in a transaction are equals. What that means is, in any transaction, the counterparties must be equal. It cannot be that one has an unfair advantage over the other. And that's why gharar is prohibited. That's why gambling as well is problematic, because you create a scenario where there's inequality in the outcome, in the result, which Islam does not want. Islam sees transactions as an embedded, coded part, and it's part of the social fabric. Because you walk out your house, you go to your corner shop, your local store, you're buying something, you're selling something, you're saying hello to somebody, you're saying salam to somebody. Transactions are a means of exchanging information. And that's why, right, I just read in another place, money is information, right? It's information. And this is a whole different subject and topic, but I was just reading about a different book, but it talks about, and transactions are this, right? Transactions are an exchange of not only assets. There's just so much more to it. Think about it. When you transact with somebody, there's so much more involved. There's a human element to it. And because of that nature, because there's human element to transactions, there's emotions involved. Islam recognizes this. Islam recognizes people are rational. Right? It's not like the classical economists who say human beings are irrational. No, rather, and now the neoclassical schools are seeing that people are really rational beings, right? They are rational. There is some kind of judgment that takes place. People prefer different things. People choose different things for an underlying reason. So there are rational choices being made. And so even Islam sees people as rational beings. When they're rational beings, there's emotions involved, there's values, there's judgment involved. When that's the case, it should never be that a transaction, therefore, be a means to upset emotions. Because you can easily have a scenario where you have thousands trading in a market. If those markets are bereft and void of Islamic principles, where you have cheating, deception, fraud, ambiguity, you have uncertainty in contracts, contingent contracts, all these prohibitions from an Islamic perspective are being practiced. You and I can imagine quickly what's going to happen. There'll be discord, there'll be disunity, fragmentation in the market, and that will automatically ripple out into the community, into the society. So transactions are embedded, they're the social fabric, they're intertwined with the community. And it should never be that there's a spillover of bad practice in transactions into the community, because Islam has come to develop communities, societies for what? For the ultimate purpose of recognizing Allah. And when transactions, which are practices, right? We do this, we see this, we're involved in it on a day-to-day basis, right? If these are impacting us to such a degree, you can imagine the impact it'll have in relations. You go to the masjid, you see somebody who ripped you off, you see somebody who deceived you, who did some fraudulent practice, or who did some other thing which offended you. You can imagine the masjid will become, where you go 5 times a day, it would automatically create friction, fights, arguments, and then the masjid will become deserted, right? It'd be completely left. And so that would be a completely counterproductive to what Islam wants. And that's why the very principle, which I mentioned, principle 3, is counterparties in a transaction are equals. And that's a key principle in Islamic finance, Islamic law, and in fiqh. It's a key principle. You see this pattern coming across several chapters of the law. And the beauty of it is just what I told you, just an amazing principle. And that just shows you how beautiful Islam is as a whole. So that was principle 3. So principle 1, remember, Islamic finance is not just about money, whereas finance is all about money, right? Islamic finance, and this is the thing, although we're adding Islamic in front of it as an adjective, that is a completely different paradigm. Number 2, I mentioned money has a specific function in the society. Number 3 was counterparties in a transaction are equals, right? That's number 3. Number 4, another very important principle is live within your means, appreciate and be thankful for what you have. You might be thinking, how is that an Islamic finance principle? But it truly is. The whole financial system that we have today, the whole credit system that we have today, the whole financing paradigm, I mean, finance is all about future cash flows. That's why when you talk about Islamic finance, why is it that products are always looking at credit risk and you're looking at different types of risk to do with future cash flows? Because that's what finance is all about. Finance gives you the opportunity to purchase something you don't have the means to do right now, but you're bringing forward in advance where you could have potentially purchased it in the future. So you're consuming the future in present, right? By getting an advance. Now, whether that's through a loan, whether that's through some kind of other financial structure, whatever the case may be. But really, you're consuming into your future by getting finance right now. So the finance really looks at a future. It's more long term. It's to do everything in the future. When that's the case, you've already changed the way you're living. If you're being financed and everything, your house is financed, your car is financed, your phone is financed, your laptop is financed. So really, you're just bringing the future into the present, and therefore you become enslaved to work and serve your creditors or whatever transactions, relationships you have with the counterparty. But it's this continuous kind of cycle where now you have to pay everyone off because you want to consume. Whereas Islam teaches us to live within our means. You'd never be or have that headache or debt hanging over your head or worry if a person lived within their means. Yes, if they can afford something, they have the cash flow, they have the potential to buy something on finance basis, that's fine. That's a different matter. The real problem comes when it's unmanageable. You're taking a risk, and that's why is leverage a problem? It's because of this reason. Generally, it's unmanageable. It's beyond a person's means. Yes, of course, there's interest charged in the financial markets when you trade with leverage, and that's one of the real reasons why it's prohibited. But also, the fact that you're borrowing more than your earning potential, right? Your current income and earning potential, that's you're now living beyond your means. And Islam tells us, no, look, live within your means. You'll have ease. You'll have peace, and be thankful what you have. Appreciate. Be thankful. But really, what's happened is, in the world that we live in, we always want more. It's never like we're never content. The latest MacBook is out, I have to have it. The latest phone is out, I have to have it. The latest Mercedes is out. The latest Audi is out, I have to have it. I need to upgrade. So this constant, I must have it. And then finance deals, which top it, say 0% interest or whatever the case may be, it just adds to your want. And that's where the problem lies. And so really, Islam sees that if you want to be content, And that's what the Messenger of Allah said in a hadith. He said that whoever has من أصبح آمنا في سربه معافا في جسده عنده قوت يومه فكأنما حيزت له محاذير الدنيا. He mentioned 𝗂𝗂𝗶 𝗙𝗿𝗇 𝗔𝗱𝗺. He mentioned that whoever has من أصبح منكم آمنا في سربه, whoever wakes up peaceful in his surroundings, he has peace, security, tranquility. معافا في جسده, he has health, he has no problem in his well-being. عنده قوت يومه, he has his needs for the day, right? He has his needs for the day. Then he says فكأنما حيزت له, is as if the entire dunya has been provided to him. It's as if he has the whole dunya and whatever it contains, because how much can you consume? You can only consume what you're able to consume today. You might have provisions for tomorrow, the week after, but you're not consuming that today. So really, what that's telling you, to live within your means, what you need today. Don't go thinking about 20 years down the line. Yes, of course, mitigate risk, that's not a problem. That's also practicing the sunnah. Plan ahead, that's also in the sunnah. But this hadith is teaching in this context that don't be so persistently thinking about tomorrow, outliving tomorrow, or getting something better for tomorrow. No, focus on today. Make your today better, and take each day as it comes, and know that each day, tomorrow is never guaranteed. And so principle 4 goes to this very important point, which really then you can understand how that impacts Islamic finance as a whole, and how it impacts consumer behavior, consumer mindset. Because your Islam is telling you, look, live within your means. Don't go and look for auto financing, car financing if you don't need it. If your car is working well, there's nothing wrong with it. Why do you want to upgrade if you don't need it? Yeah, wanting it, yeah, if you have the money and the means and you want it, you can buy it. There's no problem. It's not prohibited. It's absolutely fine, not a problem. But if you're struggling, if you don't have the funds, or you need to finance, it's beyond your budget, then you should always think twice. And any financial advisor, Patrick is a qualified financial advisor. You could go to him and take advice on these things. And any financial advisor potentially would advise you on these types of things when it comes to money matters and what's the most prudent decision to make. Principle 5, the final principle before I end my little session and we can open up the floor to Q&A, is, which I think is the sum of everything that has been said. So if you want to add up all 4 principles and then come to a 5th principle, which is the ultimate thing, is principle 5 is the ultimate life is that of the next. The ultimate life is that of the next. The next life is the real life. That's all. This world is so short, it's temporary. Everything within it is temporary. Everything within it rots, decays, comes to an end, becomes obsolete. And that's the nature of this world. So when that's the case, if everything around you is becoming obsolete, look, you bought a laptop 10 years ago. It probably doesn't have the latest software anymore. Rather, it can't even be upgraded because it's just become obsolete now. It doesn't support the latest software. Think about yourself. We will also become obsolete. We will also come to an end. And when that's the case, then Islamic finance must have and has to have a vision for that. And that's why the vision for that is, if you do your transactions in a particular way, in the way Islam wants, it will assist you in that mindset, that goal for and it will support you in understanding your ultimate purpose in life. Whereas if you don't do it like that, it will harm you in your understanding, but it will also harm you materially in this world and the next life. And this is what I want to finish off with, that when we practice upon Islam, it has a material benefit in this world and the hereafter. That is our belief. Allah tells us in the Quran as well, that if you do good, if you do good, you believe and do good deeds, Allah tells in the Quran, He'll make the rain fall. He'll give blessings in your crops and produce. If you do sins, there'll be turmoil, there'll be earthquakes, there'll be more hazards, there'll be more of everything which is harmful, because there is a correlation. There is a correlation between deeds and outcomes. There is causality, right? So when that's the case, Islamic finance will help you in this world. If you do things in the right way, it'll help you materially. There'll be more blessing in your wealth. There'll be more saved. There'll be more money, not only in terms of blessings, but even in real terms, in units. Allah will bless you. When you give zakah, Allah promises to increase you. When you give charity as well, Allah promises to increase you. And the scholars mentioned there the promise refers to both, not only in blessings, but in real terms, Allah will give that back to you. One way or the other, Allah will always give it back to you. So by practicing things in an Islamic paradigm, it will benefit you in this world, and most importantly, it will help you in the hereafter. By doing things beyond Islamic finance, or using an alternative or another method to do things which is not Sharia compliant, it will harm you in this world. Economically, it will harm you. Spiritually, it will harm you. It'll harm the society, it'll harm the economy, it'll harm the markets. And most importantly, and what's the focus of Islamic finance, is that it will harm you in the hereafter. There will be detrimental consequence in the hereafter, which is the worst of all consequences. And that's what I would like to end my session with, and we can happy to open the floor. Patrick, if you have any comments, anything you want to add, please go ahead. Feel free to add.
Sure, yeah, that's great. Thank you very much, Mufti Faraz, 𝗍𝗂𝗶𝗹𝗹 𝗍𝗂𝗧, for this really, really informative talk. And, mashallah, I think it's sort of, helping everyone, including myself, to broaden our horizons in terms of how we think about, Islamic finance, especially, principle one, finance is all about money. Okay, but when we're talking about Islamic finance, it is much, much more. It's much greater than just talking about money. It's Islamic, okay? So it's our connection to Allah, okay? So this is really, mashallah, very, very informative. I actually have a few questions myself, but one, for anybody in the audience who would like to ask a question, please put on the, if you're watching on YouTube, put in the comments, any comments or question, and then we'll ask, Mufti Faraz, Adam, those questions. Sorry, I interrupted, Mufti Faraz, please.
No, I was just saying exactly what you mentioned, the principle one, that the one word changes the whole paradigm, which is Islamic, right? That word is so value laden. There's so much value in that word, so many principles embedded within that word, that it changes the whole nature of a multi-trillion dollar industry, right? Such a huge industry, that one word changes the whole dynamics. And that just shows you how rich Islam is really, and how much there is in Islam which we need to adhere to. And finance is just the second part, really, right? But let's get the Islamic part right, and then finance will fall in its place. But yeah, it's something I don't, as practitioners and involved in the industry, we speak about products and structures and these types of things, which is well and good. But I believe there needs to be a conversation about these, the more visionary, the more holistic approach, so that we understand everything falls into place, because it is a jigsaw puzzle at the end of the day, right? Sometimes we don't understand why are we doing this transaction. We don't understand why. It's good just to zoom out.
Yeah, absolutely. We have some questions that are coming in from our brother Muhammad Salim. He says, can you advise how we can ensure our financial investments are halal?
Dear brother, I would say a couple of points. Number one is education. So at a personal level, get education. There's some brilliant courses out there. Brother Patrick is doing a course on the IFQ, right? You're teaching the Islamic Finance Qualification, which is by CISI. It's a very easy, light course, something which you can do really quick. I mean, it's not lengthy, but it's a very good course to do. There's many courses out there. So I would say educate yourself, number one. Read a lot. I mean, the first word to be revealed in the Quran and to humanity in this nation was read, right? And that just shows, I mean, just start one word, read. How many of us do that? How many of us read a book? Honestly speaking, we don't. Many people don't read. That's the truth. So reading is number one to gain knowledge. Listen, as you've attended this seminar, attend the lectures, the webinars, the seminars, and whatever else there is out there. Number three, go on a course. Number four, speak to scholars. Number five, when you invest anywhere, I would say invest in a place which has a Sharia board. It's been certified. You have clear Sharia guidance and a Sharia framework that will give you contentment, because of course you're not expected to be an expert in everything. So you have to go to the people of knowledge, as Allah tells us in the Quran. So you invest in those places which are Sharia certified. If they're not Sharia certified, find an alternative which are Sharia certified.
Thank you very much for that, Mufti Faraz Adam. I think if I may, add to that as well. I think, when we're talking about investment, generally people have got, broadly speaking, two avenues they can go down. They can invest directly themselves. Okay, so they make their own investment. They do their own research. They make their own investment decisions and so on. And you have people that can approach, okay, a financial advisor or wealth manager that specializes on the Sharia side. So either course, people have got different levels of knowledge, etc. So both options are open to everyone. But I think it's important to note that if you're doing things directly yourself, okay, then you have got the responsibility for Sharia compliance. Okay, number one. Okay, secondly, you obviously then have the responsibility as well, when it comes to paying the zakat on your investment as well. Okay, when you go through a firm of financial advisors or wealth managers that specialize in this, okay, then the responsibility is on the firm. Okay, that's their job. They have to come up with the Sharia compliant investments, etc. Of course, and also advise on zakat as well. Of course, some investments, like for example, investing in real estate, in property, this is something that you can do, directly yourself without needing any advisor, etc. But if you're involving any type of financing, then of course you have to make sure that that is, Sharia compliant financing that you use. And then of course you're also going to have to think about the zakat issues as well. But that was a great question, Mohammed. Thank you for that, because this is the type of question that is on many people's minds. Okay, I would like to ask a question myself to Mufti Faraz. One thing which I would like to understand better is, we talk about, hoarding is talked about in the Quran. And we shouldn't hoard. We shouldn't hoard money. What does hoarding actually, what does it actually mean, and what would be like a modern day example of what hoarding actually is?
Yeah, so when it comes to hoarding, you could break it down in two areas. One is commodities and items which people need, or consumables, and staple food and these types of things. And secondly is money, right? If we distinguish between the two. When it comes to goods, and you hoard it because you hold on to it and it's not harming anyone. So for example, I've purchased 20 cars, I'm holding on to them, I don't want to sell them, although it's a business, but I'm not selling them right now. I want that price to inflate, then I'll sell. And it's not harming anybody, it's not harming the market, there's no real harm, because it's so marginal, just me myself holding these cars. But I hope that when the economy opens up, there'll be more demand, that's when I'll sell, right? There's no problem in that. Hoarding is prohibited when it comes to that, when it's harmful to the markets, to the economy, to the people in society. That's when, because everything in Islam has a reason, right? There's a reason and wisdom behind it. And there's a legal reason as well, a principle. So that's when it comes to goods. When it comes to money, if you save money, again, there's no problem in saving money, because money is such a thing which is, it's you need to spend. You can't live by hoarding money, right? It's just not practical. But where hoarding will be problematic is when you don't give your zakat, when you don't do your obligations. That's the hoarding prohibited when it comes to money, because there are things you must do, right? Which is feeding a family, giving zakat. If you have to go for Hajj, you pay and go for Hajj if you have the means. Now, hoarding in this context, in the context of money, will be not doing those obligations. That is hoarding, and you'll be responsible for the sin of hoarding there. When it comes to consumable or food and other commodities, non-money related stuff, it's about harming the market and economy.
Okay, thank you. So, for example, if somebody is fulfilling all their obligations and they have like loads of money in their Islamic bank account, this is not a problem in itself.
Yeah, it's not a problem at all. You can be saving. I mean, a person can have it's holding money in a bank account, and you'll agree with, as a financial advisor and someone senior, that it's not always the best hedge against inflation and the purchasing power.
Yeah, of course, yes.
Just holding it, it's best to keep it invested. But if a person did, right, they say, look, I just want to keep my money there, I don't want to do anything. As long as they're fulfilling the obligations with that money, it's fine. There's no problem in saving money.
Yeah, great. We have another question. Thank you very much for that. We have another question that has come in. This is a good question, okay, because this will benefit many people. He says, brother is asking, a brother or sister, I'm not sure, asking, can you suggest any book to begin with? Okay, I'm a newbie in Islamic finance, so any book that you would recommend?
Look, so honestly speaking, such a hard question, and the reason is because the way books are written, they're written for different audiences, right? And different authors write differently for different audiences. I could name you like 2-3 books that just come straight to my head, which come in everybody's mind potentially, but they're written more in technical language, and people they get boiled down in that technicality. I would say one book is really good, and because it's a simply ethical webinar, it just makes sense. But to be honest, it is a good book. Faisal Karbani, the CEO of Simply Ethical, has written a book called Mastering Islamic Finance. I've read that book cover to cover. Brilliant. I mean, it's a very good introduction to Islamic finance. It gives you a lot on what it's all about, the products, how things function. There's market examples in there, really beneficial. So it only makes sense and to give a shout out to Faisal, who's doing so good work in the background. We don't benefit from him enough, but he's really a silent soldier, so to speak, and doing so much in the back end. So his book would be great, Mastering Islamic Finance.
Yeah, I can also say I have read the book cover to cover as well, and mashallah, it's a very, very good book.
Easy
What's
read,
nice about it doesn't go into like too much depth and detail. Okay, so it's not like some technical book, but it does give you a broad perspective on Islamic finance. Definitely, this is and it talks about a bit about philosophy of money as well, etc.
Yeah.
So it is a very, very good book to start in. And as Mufti Faraz Adam has already said, education is key. Okay, education is absolutely key. I mean, education is you are investing in yourself. Okay, you're investing in yourself, and inshallah, you're investing in what type of legacy you're leaving behind. As well, you're investing in your next life, in your akhirah, and you're investing in terms of what type of legacy you're leaving behind. Going back to a question that Brother Muhammad asked earlier, a continuation of that, or another question is, if I invest for the long term, is that considered hoarding?
The fact that you're investing means you're not hoarding, right? So because you're investing, hoarding is when you don't do anything, you lock it up, nobody benefits. But remember, if it's money and you're saving, that's fine, as long as you're fulfilling your dues, which is zakat obligations on your family and these types of things, right? If you have parents and you're maintaining, you're responsible to maintain them. So all the obligations you're fulfilling, then you can store money. It's not a problem, right? It's a blessing from Allah. Allah calls money khair, which means goodness in the Quran, right? So there's no problem. When it's a problem is when you are not doing any of those obligations.
Thank you very much for that. So another question, which again I think is a topical one. Okay, in some cases there's disagreements or controversies between scholars in Islamic finance. Between transactions or investments. So i.e. some saying, oh, this is something which is allowed. Others saying, no, this is haram.
Yeah, I mean, in this look, in everything there's a difference of opinion. In the way you perform wudu, right? Before ablution, before you perform salah, there's a difference of opinion on how many compulsory acts there are amongst the scholars. Right? There's a difference of opinion how you perform salah, which you do 5 times a day. Right? So, and this is because it's the beauty of Islam, the Messenger of Allah, he did things in so many different ways to make things easier for people, to show different ways. It's all a preservation of his practice, right? And it's his beauty, right? That Allah and the wisdom of having these different ways is that it creates the flexibility to act differently in different scenarios and contexts when there's potential challenges, right? Had it just been a very mechanical 1, 2, 3, 4 book, like you have to follow these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 principles or these rules, completely to the dot, then it would be very challenging. But it's from the beauty of Islam. So when it comes to this particular question, you've asked, what do you do? I mean, simple advice is Always respect the difference of opinion of scholars. That's number one. You don't ever comment, and the teaching in Islam is you don't object. Right? Rather, it's a mercy that the scholars are researching, reviewing, have different views. It's absolutely fine. You respect the different views, but you should, as for personal practice, either refer to the scholar you generally refer to for all matters, or alternatively, if there's no such scholar in the Islamic finance field, whichever scholar you feel is knowledgeable, who's pious, has piety as well as knowledge, two things the scholars mention. He must be pious, he must be somebody who you feel reminds you of Allah, connects you with Allah, makes you think about Allah, and is God conscious, you from your perspective. And number two, he has knowledge, then you can follow their opinion. There's no problem.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that, Mufti Faraz. Next question from brother Adnan. How can Muslims succeed financially when the world basis are on haram elements, so i.e., interest, and limited options for Muslims to invest in, limited index, pensions, etc., like this?
Very good question. I mean, to be honest, I would say the Muslim world has potentially some of the largest wealth in the world, right? We have a lot of money. So it's not, I wouldn't say, if success is defined by money and quantum of money, I would say we should be very, very successful, right? If you look at the money that flows in the Muslim markets, right, how much the Islamic governments have across the world, and GCC, how much money there is there. But success isn't to do with that. And I would say rather it should be more of our focus should be more on how do we ensure we are practicing on Islam the way it should be practiced in all our dealings, not only in terms of investment, even as simple as fulfilling your word. I mean, I'll be honest with you, where we fail and fall short, many of us, and I've seen this, I'm part of an industry and I see this all the time, it's just simply paying invoices on time. Honestly speaking, if you're a business, a contractor, a consultant, ask any consultant. Their probably number one complaint will be invoices are never settled on time. And you can have potentially somebody who's really performing 5 times prayer and everything good, but invoices, they will not settle invoices. I mean, it's a simple, basic requirement. So I feel that we have to focus on areas where we're not focusing on, and you'll see everything else will fall into place.
Thank you very much for that. That's a brilliant example. One of the things we have to remember in life, life is a test, and money is one of the tests in life that contests us continuously. Very, mashallah, very interesting question from brother Muhammad. There are investments in products which are specifically chosen to avoid or reduce zakat payments, such as investing in property. Is it a moral dilemma selecting investments that reduce your zakat liability?
It's a very good question. I mean, what I would say to that is, see, one of the wisdoms, not the legal reasoning, but one of the wisdoms of zakat is because if money is just held in your account, it's not circulating in the economy. It's not having any impact in the economy. Whereas if you invest in property, of course, it's having an impact. You're investing in the real economy. As a result, your money is productive. It is beneficial to the economy. Therefore, it makes sense that there's no zakat personally, right? It makes sense from a wisdom perspective. There is no zakat because your money is beneficial. Likewise, think about stock, business stock, which is zakatable. If it's just sitting on the shelves, you've not sold the stock, that will be zakatable, right? Because it's just sitting, it's not doing anything productive, right? So it's one of those things where business stock, money is held. There's zakat. The zakat is a means of it to be productive and to be beneficial for the economy and the markets. Whereas if you're investing in property, it's already productive, it's beneficial for the real economy. And further to add, there should be no moral dilemma because your charitable giving shouldn't be restricted to 2.5%. Your charitable giving begins at 2.5%. Okay? That's a very key thing because sadaqah is a whole different element. Waqf, we have. This all starts from 2. I mean, a Muslim should have this mindset. My giving begins at 2.5%. That 2.5% not giving. You got to do that. That's your membership. That's your identity, right? If you don't do that, what membership do you have to Islam? What identity do you have? That's the truth. So our giving begins at 2.5, not at 0.
MashaAllah is a brilliant point, because the 2.5% we give in zakat, this is not our money, okay? We're only discharging our obligation. We're paying money that we owe, okay? So really, the charity starts after that. Okay, we're coming up. We're pretty much run out of time now. We're coming to the end of the session. So I just want to finish on a few words. First of all, I really would like to thank Mufti Faraz Adam for joining us today and sharing his knowledge and wisdom with us. May Allah, may we all benefit from this. Thank Allah for giving us Mufti Faraz and the knowledge and wisdom that he's sharing with us. We are going to be doing these talks on a regular basis. Obviously, different talks. Mufti Faraz is going to be joining every last Thursday of the month, and we're going to be doing various different topics. Other days, there's going to be topics from other members of the Simply Ethical team, including myself, Faisal, and so on. So there's going to be a lot. Hopefully, we want to spread, inshallah, a lot of learning. I'd like to thank everybody for your participation today. Inshallah, you will, benefit from, the knowledge that you've learned today, that you will benefit from this, and you will get, barakah for attending the session. We look forward to seeing you, your friends and your colleagues, everyone that you can gather in these future sessions. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair. It's an honor, privilege. Thank you so much, Patrick. I look forward to being on one of these sessions again with you. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.